Hello and welcome to the Albert Lea Public Library's September Adult Take and Make Craft Kit tutorial. For your craft for September, you're going to make these faux stained glass luminaries. So in your kit, you have an instruction sheet, a couple different pieces of tissue paper. You have the glass votive, a container of Mod Podge, a paintbrush, and an LED candle. So for this craft, you may want to grab a pair of scissors. It is optional. You can tear the tissue paper with your hands, but scissors make it a lot easier. So the first thing you're going to need to do is take your tissue paper and cut it up into little pieces. So you're going to want pieces of different sizes and different shapes. So what I do is just kind of start making some triangles, and then I might just cut around. And you can always go back and cut these smaller. So I recommend starting bigger, and then you'll cut to shape. So as you are decorating your stained glass luminary, you will be able to cut more to shape. So if you just have a nice little collection to start with, so you can see there's, some bigger pieces here. I've got some smaller pieces. I've got different shapes. So that'll create your stained glass effect. Then, once you've got a few pieces cut, you're going to take your glass votive and you're going to just lightly coat it with Mod Podge. There are two ways you can do this. You can either coat the entire jar with Mod Podge, or you can coat each side as you go to it. I prefer to coat each side as I cover it, just in case you get interrupted. But if you'd rather cover the whole thing in Mod Podge and then do the stained glass effect with the tissue paper, that'll work just fine. So I'm going to take my votive and I'm just going to lightly, you don't need it too heavy. Mod Podge is pretty strong. So I'm just going to lightly coat with Mod Podge. Then you're going to start taking your tissue paper and putting it on the votive. And you want a little bit of overlap to give it that stained glass effect. So I'm just going to take pieces of different sizes and kind of overlap them here. And as you can see, when I get down to the bottom, I have some weird shapes left on my votive. And so if you don't have tissue paper that'll work in those spaces, you think there's too much overlap, all you need to do is just go back and cut more pieces. And the Mod Podge doesn't dry right away, so you have a little bit of time to kind of work with your design and make sure it's to your liking. So I'm going to just stick that one there. All right, so you're going to continue to do this until you have the entire jar covered. And once you do that, then I'll show you the finishing touches. All right, so I'm just finishing up the last side of my votive here. Just got a couple more pieces to place. And you may have noticed as you're doing this that you may need to put the Mod Podge on the corners as well as the side if you're just adding the Mod Podge on the sides as you do them rather than all at once to get them to stick. All right, so I've got it pretty well covered here. So to finish off, you're going to put a thin layer of Mod Podge all the way around the votive. So it's going to look a little weird, but Mod Podge dries clear, so it'll hold the paper in place and it'll give it a really cool kind of stained glass effect as it dries. And you're just going to want to be a little careful if you have some tissue paper that's kind of sticking out. Make sure it all gets secure. And again, a really thin layer, so you might have to go over it a few times with the brush just to get the excess away, but you don't need very much of it. Just gonna go here. And it doesn't matter which direction you paint, whether you paint up and down or horizontal, it does not matter. All right, so I've got it all covered in Mod Podge. So that's gonna take about 30 minutes to dry. So you're gonna wanna let it dry completely. So just set it on a surface, walk away, come back to it. Once it's totally dry, it's gonna look something like this. So you can see how the Mod Podge is kind of coming through with a kind of neat little design. So the last thing you do is you take your LED candle. There's a little on-off switch at the bottom. It's battery powered. So I'm going to turn it on, stick it in, and as you can see, it's going to light up the votive and provide a cool stained glass effect. So that is the September Adult Take and Make craft kit. So I hope you enjoy making that and you have a place to use it and put it in your house. And we will be back with another craft kit in October with a totally different craft.